Hey, hello Physical Science, this is Mr. B, and we are going to continue on with our motion chapter, and now we're on section 2, and we're going to look at speed and velocity. Now these might be two words that you have used interchangeably in your life, but they are actually different, and today we're going to focus mainly on the speed portion of what speed actually is, and now we have two different types of speed that we usually measure, and then we'll hit on velocity in our next video. So these are going to be important, and again, they connect to our last one, because when we talk about which distance we traveled, now we're going to have to maybe take a look at how quickly or how fast we actually moved. So to start here, we have a little example. So we have the speed of an inline skater is usually measured in meters per second. So how fast is this person on skate traveling every second? However, the speed of our car is usually measured in kilometers per hour. So different sets of measurement are used for different sets of motion. Again, because if we did cars, if we described them in meters per second, our speedometers would just probably be going, again, off the wall or off the chains here. So speed, again, depends on what you're actually measuring, depending on how you describe it. There's not really one good way to describe speed, because there are actually two different types of speed. So we have what's called instantaneous speed, and we have average speed. So the focus of this video is going to be the difference between those two. So average speed is computed, basically just calculated or figured out, for the entire duration of a trip, while instantaneous speed is measured at a particular instant or at one point in time. So that's the difference between the two. Average is what your speed is throughout the entire portion of the trip. Instantaneous speed is what is it at one particular point in time or at one particular instant. That's where the instantaneous comes from. So before we get to the actual difference between the two, we're going to give a general definition of what speed actually is. So speed is the ratio, so it's comparing the distance that an object moves to the amount of time the object moves. So if it takes you, again, you move 5 meters in 10 seconds. So that is why the SI unit for speed is meters per second. So it's how far you move compared to how long it took you to get there. And two ways to express the speed of an object are the average speed and instantaneous speed. So make sure you know speed is the ratio of the distance of an object, so that's the meters, the distance, how far the object has traveled, compared to the amount of time, that's the seconds that the object actually is in motion. And so first type of speed we're going to take a look at is average speed. So sometimes it's useful to know how something moves for an entire trip, even though its speed may change during the trip. So you're hardly ever, again, if you're on a long journey, you're hardly ever going to be able to travel at the same speed throughout the entire portion of your trip. There might be a time where you're on the interstate and you can drive a little bit faster. Might be a time you get stuck on a back road behind a semi or behind, I don't know, a tractor, and then your speed slows down. So what is your average speed? So we calculate average speed, and I might, on your quiz, I definitely might ask you what the definition is, but I might actually ask you to calculate an average speed if I give you a couple variables here. So make sure you pay attention to what the formula actually is, because we're going to give an example. So we figure out average speed is the total distance traveled, which is represented by this d, by the time t it takes to travel that distance. So right here is our simplified version over here on the far right. This is what you really need to focus on. So this V with the line above it, that represents our average speed. This D, lowercase d, represents our total distance. This lowercase t represents our total time. So it's pretty simple formula to figure out average speed. And so we're actually going to do an example right here on the video to help you figure out how to calculate average speed. So this is our problem right here. So while traveling on vacation, you measure the times and distances traveled. So the first part, you traveled 35 kilometers in 0.4 hours. Then you traveled 53 kilometers in 0.6 hours. So what is your average speed for the entire trip? So we have basically everything we need, but this is going to walk us through step by step on what we actually need to do to solve this problem. So first we're going to take a look at what information you're actually given. So the information that you're given is total distance. So you're given the lowercase d. It was 35 kilometers. and 53 kilometers. So you go and we look, see if that's correct. Oh, yep, we traveled 35 kilometers in 0.4 hours, followed by 53 kilometers in 0.6 hours. So that is correct. So that was a total traveling of 88 kilometers, and our total time, 0.4 hours plus 0.6 hours, that's 1 hour. So we traveled 88 kilometers in 1 hour. So what now the next step you need to do is what is the unknown you're trying to calculate, followed by what formula contains the given quantities and the unknown, and then we replace each variable with its known value. So we're trying to figure out the average speed. That's what we want to know. Again, average speed is represented by the V with the line above it. So what formula are we going to use? The only one that we've been given so far. Average speed equals distance over time. And so now we just plug it in. So 88 kilometers over 1 hour. And notice the labels. The labels are very important. You cannot leave those out because our final answer is 88 kilometers per hour. So that make sure you keep your labels here. And then if you look back, is your answer reasonable? Yes, it is, because 88 kilometers per hour is an actual typical highway speed. So that is how you calculate average speed. It's very simple. It's just the total distance you traveled over the total time. And then if I gave you, so be prepared to solve something using this equation. I'm not going to give you the equation on the quiz tomorrow, so I would make sure you wrote this down. I'll give you the distance, I'll give you the time. Again, you'll just need to figure out it'll be something really simple you can do math-wise in your head or on a piece of paper. So now our other type of speed is instantaneous speed, and this is just the speed. The rate at which an object is moving at a given moment in time. So it's really just how fast you're going at one particular instant. Like if you took a snapshot, how fast are you moving right now? That is your instantaneous speed. And one easy way to measure instantaneous speed is the speedometer in the car. So whatever your car says, that is what your instantaneous speed is at that moment. And notice, most of your cars, we in the United States, we're on a different system than basically the rest of the world. We have miles per hour on the outside, that's what we go by. But if you notice the smaller numbers on the inside, that is your kilometers per hour. So that's what those numbers on the inside represent. So big thing, average speed versus instantaneous speed, I think is pretty easy to understand. So that's it for the first part of section 2. Let me know if you have any questions.